Czech Heroines, a project about emancipation and the power of change, created by the internationally acclaimed illustrator Renáta Fučíková and the students of SUTNARKA of the Atelier of Didactic Illustration. Renáta, in the context of your project, Czech Heroines, can you take us back to the beginning, to the origin of your idea behind this exhibition?
Well, now it will be already the third anniversary of this idea. I was teaching at the faculty of Ladislav Sutnar already 1 year, and as every summer I need to prepare the project for following semester. So I was thinking during my work, doing my homework, and I came to the idea that we are mostly women and girls in our class or in our studio of didactic illustration or non-fiction illustration. And I realized that we should be proud of the changes in our society, and that we can make a map or the mosaic of portraits of extraordinary, outstanding women of Czech history, and also we can make some map of the life of women, which is really different from masculine world. So the very first start of our work was just free mapping of any lives, any topics which my students were interested in. So they made illustrations of cosmetics, of linen, of underwear, but also portraits of real women, but also portraits of heroines of films, of movies, of operas, of novels. So it was the first semester, and then I started improving the whole project, and there was a very interesting moment in our work, because somebody told about our project to well-known, renowned writer Renáta Fučíková, who is focused on lives of women in our history, and she contacted me with an offer of cooperation. So it was the break in our project, and then we started cooperating. She gave us a lot of names of forgotten or not known women, and we started developing this project as the gallery of portraits.
So does it mean that for Kateřina, the subject of let's say the position of women in the Czech history was already like an ongoing research for one of her book projects?
Yes, she was already working on something similar, and then we thought quite simply, why to do two separated projects when we can join together? So she started writing long portraits, written portraits, and we started illustrating. Also, the first reason of this theme of portraits of extraordinary Czech women was the 100 years anniversary, which we celebrated a year ago, and this year, because in 1919 our republic, our new Czechoslovak Republic, accepted the new constitution, which equalized the position of women with the position of men, and we were one of first nations, first countries in the world which accepted this. And in 1920, this constitution came to real life. So I think that this anniversary has something to do with the half of our population, half of the nation. Yeah. So when we celebrate any anniversary, sometimes it speaks about some minority, but now we don't speak about minority, we speak about half of our nation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also reminds me of what I said in our written interview, but also the opening speech, how history has been written by men to serve men, to sort of, let's say, safeguard man's dominant conduct, which is also man's confirmation in society, culture, politics, science, law, etc. But you also mentioned that it hasn't always been this way. Okay.
Besides the exhibition, we are also working on the book, and in the book I added some of my contributions where I depict or describe the development of roles of men and women, and in very deep history it was completely different than we imagine now, because we are used to take women as some suffering beings, but it was not that way. For hundreds, thousands of years we were equal with men. So when we consider the time of Paleolithic time or Neolithic time or Bronze Age, in all these periods women were equal with men. And then during later times there were coming nomadic nations to Europe, and they were bringing the other way of life. And the end was the acceptation of Biblic way of life, when the man is deciding about everything. But such a Biblic way of life came to really extraordinary strong way in the middle of the 19th century. So when you imagine the technical development of the society, men could do anything. They could do the scientific research, they could do the politics, and women did nothing. They were allowed just to stay at home and take care of the household. So this needed the change, and most of portrayed women here did the change here in Czech country.
Before you also said that in this exhibition there's portraits of about 50 Czech heroines, but of course in the research that you have been doing with your colleague Katarzyna, you came across many more names that have not yet been illustrated. Is it part of the continuation of the project that there will be added more illustrations of Czech heroines?
Yes. Yeah. Accidentally we are adding just now one remarkable woman who was the author of Gobelins, of the tapestry, and she is also her destiny is very attractive, so we will add her portrait to our book. So in fact we made about 100 portraits. So in book we have more than 60 of them. Exhibition presents 50 of them, and in book some of them are connected.
So it's a project about emancipation, but in a way it's also a project about, can I say, correcting the history?
Maybe,
or
yes.
Making sure that there is enough nuance in history?
I think it's for better understanding the history. If we want to admire some acts of these women, we need to know the historical background. So this was my role to explain to children who would read this book to get familiar with those historical periods. And we also want to show not only great destinies or great acts, but also the beauty or art which these women gave to our country, but also to the whole world. So we have several women here are really world-known artists, for example, or world-known politicians.
When we talk about art, of course, we also have to talk about your students. I have been visiting your studio in SUTNARKA since 2 years, and it's always a pleasure to work with you and with your students, who are amazingly talented young people. And it seems to me that you involve them in your project so that they can get also an understanding of how it is to work as a professional illustrator. Can you say something about your relationship with your students?
I feel myself, I take myself like an older colleague or older friend, not mother, but not the teacher. I have some advantage because I came to this faculty quite old, because I'm already quite experienced publishing illustrator, so I can share my experience with them. And my credo is not to push them, not to press them to some form. I always just tell them, don't do this. When they go really out of some nice stream of good art, sometimes I must say, please quit doing this. But this is the only thing. And I think most of our work are these projects which have then some final results, like books, like exhibitions. So this is not the first time when we exhibit abroad like this. Czech Heroines, we also made 2 very successful exhibitions. For example, for United States, we made the history of Czech Velvet Revolution, and before we made the history of 100 years of Czechoslovak Republic, or Czech Republic. So we are already experienced together to do this. But besides that, I also want them to do their own projects. So they have a lot of work, and sometimes they are really tired. But imagine now we have the summer vacations time, and some of them they write me, I want to do something, please give me some projects.